The airbrush you've never heard of may end up just being the one you can't live without.
Spiky bits.
Welcome back, Hobby Maniacs. I'm Rob Bear from SpikyBits.com, and we're taking a look at another airbrush. Yes, that's right, another airbrush. I know I'm always talking about airbrushes, and it's important because airbrushes have a lot of different factors when folks go to buy them. And of course, you don't want to buy more than one airbrush, although people do. But if you're going to spend the money on an airbrush, you want to make sure you get the one with the most bang for your hobby budget. And I understand that. I've shown you airbrushes that are great based on accessibility, usability, and affordability. But now I think you kind of blend all three of those together in a responsible manner. And this airbrush is actually worth taking a super good look at if you're trying to drop some change on an airbrush and have it, last a long time for you, but also have it work very hard and do a lot of different things for you too, I feel like. So Spray Gunner sent us this GSI Creos PS-770. It's a Mr. Hobby airbrush. It's the generic version of a very popular Iwata brush that I'm going to show you here in a second. I've even heard of it back in the day. I could never afford it because it's ridiculous money. But this is very affordable once you consider, yes, you are going to have to spend some money on airbrushes. And it's got a lot of features too that I feel like is definitely worth talking. And I've been using it on some of my models here. I've beta tested it, so to speak, before this review video live on Twitch and a couple different things. So I've got some points to make and some things that I think are relevant to the miniature painting kind of side of things, and not necessarily, the canvas and the more traditional art side of things that it is probably designed for. So let's jump over to Spray Gunner and take a look at that, and then just use it and show you what I think. So here it is, spraygunner.com, and they carry most of the airbrushes I've ever talked about on this channel, and they've probably sent me a lot of them. A couple of them I've bought of my own initiative, but we have a pretty good partnership going on between us where they send me stuff and I'm like, all right, yeah, I like it. And sometimes they just don't talk about some of the stuff they send me, but that's okay. Anyways, so here it is right here. It's the PS-770 GSI Creos. I showed you what it looks like in the opening slide right there. Here's just a couple of quick things, like it deconstructs down into its constituent parts here. You got a little nozzle, and I'm going to show you the exploded view diagram, which I've printed out because it's important. I'm going to show you some spray patterns we've done as well. But this is just a great idea of kind of how it breaks apart and how you can clean it. There's a rubber O-ring in here. It's not PTFE. It's Teflon seal up in here in the packing screw. But other than that, it's pretty easy to break down. And one of the features I love the most isn't actually a feature, it's a little plastic part, but we're going to show you that here in a second. $225, it was $350. You can actually accessorize it. There's a spring you can buy. I think it's Drew Blair, I want to say the name is. Designed a spring for, I believe, the Iwata version of this, but it also works for this airbrush here, which is even softer than what I'm about to show you, which is even crazier. I couldn't even imagine using this airbrush with a more softer spring. But yeah, you can check it out right here. Now, this is the no-name or the white label version of basically the Iwata custom Micron. And you can definitely tell just by looking at it, hey, that looks like the same airbrush. Rumor is they're made in the same factory by the same people, yada, 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 whatever. You know how generic stuff, white label things go. But I've never held this airbrush, but if I had to hazard a guess looking at it and using the PS-770, then I'm pretty sure it's a very identical airbrush, if you know what I mean. And the price is not identical. Look at that right there. So this is the Mercedes-Benz of all, the Cadillac of all airbrushes that a lot of folks really, really love. But it's $600. So I feel like this is a good middle-of-the-road alternative to that right there. So here's the exploded parts diagram view of this particular airbrush here, courtesy of spraygunner.com. They do have a maintenance kit you can purchase separately, which looks actually pretty cool. It's in the documentation of this, but I'm not going to talk about that because I actually want to pick one up and see, how easy it is to use. It's got good reviews. This airbrush actually has 5-star reviews on Amazon.com, and it's actually cheaper from Spray Gunner than Amazon, which is also very surprising. Go figure. I don't know. A lot of wizardry at work here all the way around. The one thing you are going to notice now, I've shown you other airbrushes here, like some harder steambacks that have, you know, PTFE seals everywhere and all the bells and all the whistles. This doesn't necessarily, you know, give you all these bells and whistles once you start looking at it. There's one PTFE seal, which is in the packing, the needle pack right here, which is going to be inside about right here-ish. The rest of them look to be just your normal plastic O-rings, or your rubber O-rings rather. That are kind of inserted in different locations in the piston here for the air, and then up here in the front where the paint and the air and the water and everything just kind of combust together and mixes. So that's basically the biggest difference, but the spring is ridiculous. I'm going to show you that here in a second. Something else that you might not be used to with an airbrush, this is a 0.18 millimeter needle. That I think is very important to talk about, because if you use like the H&S airbrush that I normally use, and I've showed you here in the past, right, on the channel, that is a 0.2. So it's slightly bigger than this one here, but this one you can get ridiculously small. I'll show you some spray patterns here in a second. And we're gonna use it on some miniatures. But say you use something like the Iwata Eclipse, because it's prevalent, it's pretty much easy to find, and a lot of folks have it. That's a 0.3. So you're literally talking about a nozzle, a needle, that's half the size of what you're used to if you're trying to step up to this. So that's going to give you not only some better control, but some better line definition, but it's also going to require you to thin down your paints even more than you're probably used to. And that was one of the problems I had at first. I wasn't thinning down my paints enough. But it's, in this day and age, it's very easy to get everything you need to make it work, and obviously to maintain it with extra parts and things from spraygunner.com as well. So real quick, here's just some normal spray tests I did with a dark blue color that I was working my nights with here. And you can kind of see you're gonna get really small. You're gonna be able to do a lot of fine detail work with this airbrush. You can see the very thin lines here, working on up to the bigger lines. And you can work your distances with the airbrush getting closer and pulling back. You don't really need to pull the needle back and forth and things like that, although you can. And there's a lock and everything and a number system, so you can get your own custom mixes and distances and things. But I feel like if you just work some brush control, getting closer and farther away, and also tapering on your airflow, you can really do a lot of good things here. So whereas so many folks out there might be used to the Iwata Eclipse, which is going to be something like a spray pattern up in here, you're going to be able to really get down into here and do a whole lot of good things with some trim and some detail work that you might not have been able to do in the past. And it's really fun, and it's really cool to really be able to dial in and get that time savings on your models. So here's a piece of a Knight Castellan greave, leg greave right there that we've painted up, you know, using traditional point, I want to say it was a 0.2 needle airbrush. It might have even been the Iwata, I forget, right here. But I've got some of this cutback paint mixed up into the pot right here, ready to go, because I was doing those spray patterns and stuff for this video. And I just kind of wanted to show you real quick. I did this live on stream. You can kind of, like I was talking about with the distances, you can get in really tight like that, which is really crazy. Or, you know, if you want to be back here and you want to have that big fat line, you can do that too. It just kind of depends on what you want, which really allows you to kind of dial it in and get in there and do those fine details, like shading that right there, which was super easy. I kind of went a little high on it right there. But like over here, I got a little bit of too much gray over in my blue. So what I want to do is try to cut that back. So I want to aim actually at that line that's kind of messed up right there. Not really messed up because it's very hard to notice, but it is there. But I want to give it a little bit more definition too. So what I'm going to do is just get in there, aiming at that line, and I went over it. And kind of, for the most part, from this angle right here, it's kind of hard to do on camera. You can still see it if you turn it right there, but with a little bit of wash or something, I can take care of that. And it's got enough black in there. I got a little bit over on the gray, but it's totally fine. So you can really get in there and have those really thin lines that are going to make a lot of details pop, or just allow you to paint more details than what you had painted in the past. Here you see kind of like a thicker line on this little groove right there. But if I grab this, that isn't done, so we can get in there and we can cut that back. Nice and easy, avoiding all of the gold trim right there and such. and same with on this side. And just getting in there and grabbing all that. So there's a lot of potential here for detail work that you might not have ever been able to do with your airbrush because this is so thin. But I mean, look at that paint right there. It's super, super watery. You're going to go past your milky consistency and get into watery. Here's another look at just how fine a lines we can get with this airbrush. Really getting in there nice and thin. I kind of was a little too far away. I probably could have gone thinner, but I wanted a little bit of a fade right there. And say you wanted a fade that is about the diameter of the distance between those grooves, you could definitely do that too, just being way out here. But once you start getting in and you can really dial in the pressure with this little air gauge right here, air adjustment. I have a GMAC valve, but say you didn't, say you just have the normal quick release, you know, that's going to come with or the attachment that it's going to come with, you can do that too. So it's super easy to just get in there and dial it in and get that contrast built up to really make your details pop. One of my favorite things about this airbrush is the clean out. So just give it a little bit of a water flush right here. Anything that sticks to the top around there. They do have a microfiber wipe that you can use. I just like to use a little plastic bristle cleaner brush right here that I'll just go around and scrape out the insides. Well, not really scrape, but just gently break up the material off of that. And it's good to do this in between color changes too sometimes, so this won't mar the surface or anything like that. So I'll get in there, I'll break all this up, I'll wash it out again, just kind of do its thing. But the one thing I like the most about this is the little plastic cap they give you for it, which makes back flushing a breeze. You just put your finger over this and instant back flush. It's kind of crazy how simple that is. I wish I had something like that in the future and then, or in the past, and then you just do it again and just keep doing it. Now, the internal combustion area of this kind of means that there's going to be a little bit of leftover colored paint in here, and you really can't super flush it out unless you know, kind of open that up. You don't really need to, because it's just gonna, you know, just blow out a little bit of the color paint before you color switch, or, you know, use the same spectrum or stuff. You don't super have to get in there and mess with that. Although you will see a little bit more color maybe than you're used to in your pot and your water back flush there. So let me show you how to do a quick power weapon project from square one. So first of all, you're gonna want to add some flow improver. I like to kind of cover the whole bottom right there because, like I said, you got to go thinner because of the size of the needle on this one. Then I'm going to take our base highlight, or our first highlight of Sotek Green. It's a sassy blue that doesn't know what color it really wants to be, but we love it just the same. And I think this actually might be clogged, so I might have to grab my paintbrush. Yeah, that's clogged. So I'm going to have to grab my paintbrush and put some in there from the nozzle. So just a quick reminder, always try to wash off the tops of your paint bottle nozzles after you squeeze paint out, because sometimes it dries and goes back inside and clogs everything up. So once you get your paint into your reservoir, and this is a pretty big reservoir too, it's not detachable, but that's okay. I think it's I want to say it's 10 milliliters, so pretty significant. You can get a whole lot of paint in here. We're just gonna use our buster brush to kind of stir it up right there and get it all pre-mixed, so it all looks like, yep, there it is, one big happy swirly family. And then we're going to grab our power sword victim here. We have a Custodes. We've already base coated it with Stegadon, Stegadon Scale Green. So now we're going to go in and we're going to highlight the power weapon, or the power blade, the Custode blade here. And I think it's, let's see. So we're going to aim basically at this line. So we're going to try to aim our spray at this line, which will create kind of a, you know, a little bit of a spray pattern there. But that's our target, and that's what we're going to go for. And a nice gentle base coat there is ready to go. So next up is going to be a little Temple Guard blue, which is more of a teal or a turquoise, I suppose. We've got it mixed up in a pot, and we left a little of the Sotek green in there. We didn't completely wash it all the way out, and now we're going to aim pretty much a little bit off the line of that fine edge right there, just to try to get a little bit of a transition going. And because it's such a small piece, it shouldn't be that big of a deal transition wise. But if you were on a larger, flatter surface, you probably would want to do something like mix part of those two paints together just to get a really smooth blend. Now we'll repeat the process on the back there too. Then we're going to add a little bit of pallid witch flesh to the mix right there. It's a very cold, kind of bright gray that's really going to make this highlight kind of pop on the very, very end. So now we're going to aim off of the edge as far as we can. As a matter of fact, I'm going to kind of tilt it and get it at like a 45-degree angle here. Not quite a zenithal, but just trying to angle the spray just to catch the very edge of the Guardian Spear right there. So let's try that. Let's see, it's starting to grab, but I think with the angle of the camera, it's going to be hard for me to see it and show it to you. So I'm going to do it off camera real quick. So bang that out and you can see it looks awesome. And the only way to make this more awesome, if that's even a word, is to just take some of that same pallid witch flesh and just edge along the little blade right there. And that's really just going to make it all pop. But just being able to cut in and do power weapon details like that with pretty much no fuss is pretty amazing given the size of these pieces. So the recap, some of the features that I really enjoy about this, well, one of the features that I think is cool that I'll probably never use is this little dial setting right here, and all it does is move that stopper to the needle chuck so you don't pull it back quite as far. But it's good for portrait painting and canvas, more traditional art than kind of what we're used to working with, although you could use it for base coating, I suppose. Another thing that I really like, and let me turn this so I don't spray the computer monitor, is this actually is amazing when it comes to dual action. I couldn't even imagine the spring being in it and actually being more, even more of a softer pull. So you can pull this all the way back to the point that you actually want to spray, and then boom, you just lock it in like right there, which you can use in conjunction with this, which I think is pretty darn incredible. Here, I'll do it this way. So I'm just can pull it back literally all the way and then just press down and just hit it with a little bit of pressure right there. You can adjust the pressure right here instead of on your compressor, which is really nice. They say don't go long down more than 2 millimeters right there, or else it might detach, and that would be bad, you know, in the middle of painting. And then to adjust your trigger pull is right here, and I keep it at about 1 nub right there. But you can adjust all this, and like I said, you can buy that different spring and swap that one out as well. And my favorite part, stupidly, of this whole contraption is the little plastic protective cap on the end that really makes back flushing a breeze when you put your finger over the little blowhole there at the end, and you don't have to worry about pricking yourself or blowing air everywhere. It just works. It's stupid simple, and I love it. So overall, you might have never heard of this airbrush, but it might just be the airbrush that you can't live without. It does so many different things for miniature painting that I think it's definitely worth a look. You can combo it with a no-name 2D compressor for about $100 and be out the door for right around $300 with a really great airbrush, a really great compressor. Both I highly recommend. I use them myself. I think this might become my new favorite airbrush. We'll see. I gotta see about getting my spiky bits engraved into it there. So that's it for this one, folks. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you head over to spraygunner.com to pick up yours today, because it's cheaper than Amazon, so why not, right? Even though they sent us and they told us to say that, but I wouldn't have said it if it wasn't true. And hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you can be the very first to like and comment on all our videos.